Jonathan, thank you very much, and a big thank you to everyone for making the time today. So it's a big crowd who are on the Teams call today, and and much to be done. So first, a big thank you for all that has already been achieved. I think some of you who are on this call have been part of this process for a very long time. That I think you'll remember that some of you will remember Uri Treisman coming here to Georgia and and beginning a conversation about math pathways. And that work really led to what initially was the ideas of math pathways here in our system, to moving away from simply only having college algebra as a mathematics, the beginning of a mathematics journey for our students, but recognizing that how important it might be to introduce other possibilities. Quantitative reasoning and math modeling were the two new pathways that really came out of those initial conversations with Uri Treisman. When I came along, I guess almost 3.5 years ago now, kind of began the conversation of saying, well, you know what? Yes, we introduced those pathways into the mix, but how do we begin to really build those other pathways into the curriculum that the different disciplines expect and recommend for our students to take? And at least as importantly, there was a pathway that was missing, that there are plenty of disciplines who are not statistically based, and they are not discrete mathematics based. They are statistics based. They are not calculus based or discrete mathematics based, but they're statistically based disciplines. And so in that sense, we want it to be the case then that students have the opportunity to begin and journey a rigorous and well-prepared statistics pathway that then leads and prepares those students for success in their disciplines. It's one of actually the wonderful things that I don't think I ever really thought that I would see in my lifetime. I guess it's about 2 years ago now that CBMS, the umbrella organization of all 17 national mathematics associations, all came out with a unified statement. A unified statement I don't think I ever really thought that I would see come from all of those 17 associations. Not because I didn't believe the statement, but because I really didn't imagine that I would ever see the mathematics community unify in such a way. But they all came out a couple of years ago and said, you know what, students who are studying at the college level, the mathematics that they take, the first mathematics course that they take, should be a course which is pertinent to their discipline. The mathematics which is pertinent, that is the kind of mathematics which is the kind of mathematics that the discipline that they came to study is based on. And as I said, it is the case already that in this system we had recognized the fact that not all disciplines are calculus based, and so consequently then created these other pathways, but now recognize more fully that we certainly have disciplines that are statistically based, and so consequently how important it is for us to create a statistics pathway for our students to follow. So I really, as I say, want to say a big thank you to all of the schools who have already done the work of creating that statistics course, implementing that statistics course, and I know there are students right now who are in courses studying statistics in that elementary statistics course and gaining from the work that has already been done. I want to say also a big thank you to the schools who haven't yet done that work but are part of the summit today, who are interested in doing what needs to be done to begin down that journey. So the first thing that I want to point out is that how important it is that in doing this work, only that. So it isn't only creating that statistics course, its elementary statistics course, and doing the policy-based work of moving that course from only being in Area D to also living in Area A. So that is an important aspect of this work, but but it is not the only aspect. And you've heard me say this many times about many of the kinds of things that I've asked as a system that we would do together, that it isn't this work is rarely a menu. It is much more likely to be a recipe. And this is one of those pieces, just like the work of the Momentum Year that had a number of different aspects. This idea of creating a statistics pathway is not only the work of creating that policy work of moving that course from one place in the gen ed to another. Yes, that's an important piece of this, but it is certainly not the only piece. And so it's those other aspects of the work which I kind of want to talk through briefly today to set up, and then the aspects of the work which really are going to be the sort of the focus of the different breakouts that Jonathan and the team have organized today. So the first around those things really is recognizing that we really want this to be, that it needs to be a pathway, not a door. So what do I mean by that? Well, it is currently the case, again, that by taking that statistics course, which currently in many campuses lives in Area D, and allowing it now to satisfy on that campus the gen ed requirement in Area A, that opens a new door, and it's an important door. So I certainly don't want to minimize the importance of that door, but it is not. But at present, it is simply opening a new door. Now, first of all, I want to talk to you and reassure you about how important it is for students to walk through that door in their freshman year. I think many of you are familiar with the research data that we had in the Momentum Year, which centered around how important it was within their first academic year that students would successfully complete the math and English courses that were part of their degree programs. And I think you've all heard me say many times how important that is, and the way in which that's then connected to overall student success. That literally students who are able to complete both of those courses in their first academic year are about 10 times more likely to be successful in their overall degree than students who are not able to complete those courses. And if they complete one or other, that increases then their likelihood by about a factor of 5. So these are certainly not small pieces to make sure that students really do have the opportunity to be able to take and successfully complete the right math classes in their first academic year. So what does that then tell us about what's going on in statistics? So I actually early on had some data run about placing the statistics course not as the first course that a student might take, but as the second course that a student might take. So is it in fact the case that there's something not working about that? So first of all, I want to kind of to make sure that everyone on the call is aware of what those data show. So the first is that the first is certainly to say, well, are students advantaged by taking another math class first? Is it the case that somehow taking another math class first, that maybe they build their math muscles, they build some mathematical maturity? Not quite sure what's on the screen right now, but that's interesting. Is it the case that somehow students are advantaged in their journey in statistics by taking another course first? So it turns out that actually the answer that we have to that is, well, no, not really. When there were a few schools, 3 or 4 schools in our system who already had allowed students to satisfy Area D to take that statistics course as a very first course. Of course, not those schools, they didn't require students to take college algebra or pre-calculus or quantitative reasoning or math modeling first. Turns out that when you look at the thousands of student grades for those schools and then compare them with the thousands of students of grades from all the other schools that required students to take some really algebra-based course beforehand, there's literally no difference in the success rates passing those statistics courses, whether or not they took a math course before or whether or not it was the first math course they took. Their success rates were basically indistinguishable. And really, there's not anything terribly surprising about that, because I think we all know, all the math folks certainly on this presentation know, that there is basically no mathematics that we teach in college algebra or pre-calculus or math modeling, or to that extent in most of the quantitative reasoning courses that we do, that in any way better prepare a student to take a statistics course. There's not really any algebra in statistics. It's nice that Jonathan saw me calculate a z-score by hand in a meeting, but the reality is that's about the limit of the kinds of algebra that we expect students to do in most statistics courses. If you can rearrange z equals x minus mu over sigma, then you're in good shape. Statistics courses instead are about statistical thought. They're about the critical kinds of thinking of how it is that you manipulate and analyze data, and that's a very different kind of set of mathematical thinking that we're going to find in most algebra-based courses like college algebra or math modeling come to that. So it's not very surprising that those students do just as well whether or not they have or haven't taken those courses. And so in that sense, we absolutely should take solace in recognizing that we are not really advantaging our students by requiring them to take another math course first before they take statistics. Certainly not in enabling them to be more successful in following the statistics journey. We should also take solace in the fact that this work has been done in other places before. It isn't the case. It is often the case of what we're doing in Georgia is really kind of at the vanguard of this. This is not the case at this point in enabling students to be able to take statistics as a entry freshman class. This is really widespread across the country, and we can look to the north to the state of Tennessee, where this work was done 5 or 6 years ago, and there it is commonplace for students in their community colleges and in their universities to take statistics as a freshman level class, to take statistics as a freshman level class with the support of co-requisite, just as we are working through in this project, and the students do quite wonderfully, just as we would have hoped them to. So in that sense, we shouldn't concern ourselves that in this way, on the one hand, that somehow we would have advantaged our students more by getting them to take another math course first. There's no evidence that that's really true. That it isn't the case that we are disadvantaging those students by now putting some significant mathematical burden on them, which maybe they won't be able to succeed in. And thirdly, it is the case that currently by requiring those students to take another math class first, it is the case that they are not taking statistics within their first year. When you look at across our system and look to see whether or not students in particular statistically based disciplines are in fact taking that elementary stats class, the math class that they really need for their discipline within their first academic year, and so consequently really doing what we know advantages them, taking the right math in the first year. Actually, what we see is that even in deeply statistically based disciplines like statistics or like psychology or the other social sciences, only somewhere around a quarter of the students who declare those majors are actually currently taking a statistics course as part and parcel of their first year, their first 30 hours of study. And so that isn't what we want at all, right? But what we want is, in fact, that those students who, right from the very start, who are in an academic focus area that is a statistically based academic focus area, that they really are taking a statistics course as part of their first year of study. And that really leads me then to recognizing that it's important for us to have that door, but the door needs both to be an expected door and a door to a pathway. So the expected door part, it really is the case, and we need to kind of talk about it today. How do we begin to really recognize the fact that, yes, there might be other possible students could take to satisfy their area A, but if they are in a statistically based discipline, then our expectation, our recommendation should be that statistics is the course that those students should be taking. So how do we do the hard work of working with working with not the mathematics department, but the other departments across your institution, and recognizing that those departments that are statistically based disciplines are now going to actively recommend and expect that their students, right from the very start, will be advised to take a statistics course to satisfy their begin that statistics journey with them. Right now, it is the case that across many of the schools that are here today, you have done the policy work to move the course from Area D into Area A, but have not, on many campuses, done the work yet of changing that advising, changing that expectation, changing the curricular requirements that different disciplines will begin to expect. And so that's one of the elements of the recipe that I would like for you to think through today. How do you work with those other disciplines, statistically based disciplines, to now begin to expect students to be taking the elementary stats class as to begin their mathematics journey? And then the other piece of this is, as I said now a number of times, not a door, but a pathway. Not a door, but a pathway. And so as we move this course from Area D into Area A, of course it still satisfies Area D if a student wants that to be the case. If we move this course from Area D into Area A, what we open up then is a realistic both opportunity and void, right? So it is then the case that without recognizing that opportunity, those students would take a statistics course leading on to, well, not leading on to the remainder of a journey. And so there is an opportunity now to add courses in Area D, which a student might then build out into a full statistics pathway. I really want to say a big thank you to Jonathan and to many others across the system for the hard work that they've done actually throughout the spring and early summer of this year in creating a new template course, a course in data science, a new freshman level course in data science. So that course was modeled off a course at College of Coastal Georgia that has been approved by the Gen Ed Council. We in December will be taking, as I say, this template of a course to the Gen Ed Council, which would then allow any institution, should they choose to take this data science course and bring it to their campus and say, yes, we would like to offer this data science course on our campus and for it to satisfy Area D. If that happens, then bingo, we now have a statistics pathway at your campus. It's not clearly the only way that a pathway could be built out. Could also be the case that the mathematics department or the mathematics department in partnership with some other department might want to make a second semester statistics course that students could take after that elementary statistics. Or maybe it matches up with some other statistics course that is living in that statistically based discipline. But I really want to, again, another piece of this recipe is to now think, how do we build the possibilities of a statistics pathway after the students have taken that elementary stats class? Then it leads onto what? Onto data science, onto more statistics within their major. But what does that look like? And how do you, again, not leave this to chance, but do the work of building that into the curricular design of those different disciplines? And how do you ascribe it in degree works in such a way that as students are going through their advising process, they make sure that they really are following that guided pathway that we want them to follow. The last thing I'll touch on briefly is the way in which all of this lives within the work of redesigning the general education. I'm sure you'll remember in what seems like another lifetime before the virus hit, we were together going through the work of redesigning and rethinking and repositioning our general education structure. And in many ways, this work was a sort of an initial down payment on that, because as we did that work with the implementation groups and with the re-envisaging groups, what we saw was the need to introduce within the structure of our general education ways in which more students would have the ability to take the mathematics that allowed them to have the essential skills to live in the 21st century. And I think if it is undeniable that for many people, having the ability to analyze and manipulate data and to draw the critical conclusions that statistical techniques provide is an undeniable critical skill within the 21st century. So as of course you know, it is the case that we have taken the Gen Ed redesign now, and it's on hold while we are navigating our way through the challenges of COVID-19. But certainly that work will begin again at some point in, I hope, the new year when hopefully times are different. But I do want to reassure you that the work that we're doing today is simply complementary to not only the work to come, but certainly complementary to the work at hand. Because the reality is that by doing this work, not only is it the case that we build towards where we will be going as a system around the redesign of our general education, but of course it's also the case, as I've already pointed out, that this crucial work around redesigning our mathematics pathways is really part and parcel of making sure that all of our students are prepared for the success in their degrees that we would like to see. So with that, hopefully that's answered some questions, has been reassuring to others, and and hopefully has checked some boxes on others. But really, it sort of, I hope, sets up what the expectations are for this afternoon. So as I say, to live out the remainder of the elements of this recipe, not only to pass the policy work that actually repositions the statistics course from Area D to Area A, but also to plan out this path of action of working with statistically based disciplines on your campus. I should add, we have worked with the various RAC committees to ask them which is the mathematics course that you would prefer as a discipline RAC, and many of those statistically based discipline RACs have come back and say, yes, that's right, we're a statistically based discipline. Statistics is what we would recommend. So in many ways, what I'm asking you to do is to take that recommendation of the RAC, engage with those disciplines on your own campus, and then do the work of embedding not only that one course, but ideally a pathway into the curriculum of those different disciplines. So with that, I will hand back to Jonathan, who will kind of tell you what it is that we have in store for you this afternoon, and then I'll see you all on the other side a little later on. Thanks so much, Jonathan.
All right, thank you, Dr. Danley.